There's a book out, The 10 Conversations You Must Have Before You Get Married and How to Have Them. And it's available by Googling that title. Is it worth it? Doc Love said yes, but offered some things he disagreed with. Overall, though, he recommended it. Getting married soon? This segment is for you. It's all coming now from the man that interviewed thousands of women, asking them why they chose one man versus another. What Doc Love learned from women is taught to you on this channel.
You guys are going out, you and Caprice, and it's been about a year and a half now. And you guys are deeply in love, and you kind of kid each other about being married and this and that. And so she says, I'd like to get engaged. And he says, okay, we'll get engaged. So it's time to go pick the ring out. But before you give her the ring, you want to get this book. I don't agree with everything in here, which I'll go into a little bit because you know me, I have to nitpick. But overall, this is a pretty good book, The Conversations You Must Have Before You Get Married by Dr. Guy, G.Y. Grenier, Grenier, and he says you got to sit down, you got to have a talk, and I like it because he says you're going to go into business with this girl. So there's these 10 things you got to talk about before you buy her the ring, because we don't want any surprises after we get married. So the first fourth of the book is he gives you. He calls them the 15 rules of good communication. Okay, and he tells you about how to talk to each other. Okay, which I like 80-90% of it. But you know me, I read everything and I look everything with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm trying to find things here that I disagree with. So the first thing I disagree with, again, I would say get this book if you're about ready to get hitched, because it has some good stuff in here. But the thing that bothers me is, let's go to, just one second here. I want to go to page 40, okay? According to the politically correct, telling your partner that you find someone else sexually attractive is inappropriate. Expressing any thoughts, feelings, or needs that have a genderist quality is a no-no, according to political correct. Now, I want to go back over this now. Telling your partner that you find someone else sexually attractive is inappropriate. It is, but it's not because of political correctness. It's because when you guys decided to get married, you're loyal to that person sexually. And, you know, the guy goes down to the beach with his buddies and he sees this good-looking woman. And then he comes home to his wife and says, honey, I saw this great-looking woman at the beach with a bikini. Boy, I was really turned on, but you know, I'm happily married to you, and it had no effect on me at all. And she's supposed to sit there and take that? That has absolutely nothing to do with political correctness. It has to do with the respect. You're disrespecting your wife. So, in a sense, he's right, and you shouldn't do it, but it's not political correctness. But these are just a couple little points that I didn't like. And then this one I really disagree with. My point is that yelling to get someone's attention, yelling to let someone know how bad things may be, yelling to tell someone how upset you are, can actually be a very useful communication tool. If we demand that communication situations, particularly those that center on important issues or emotionally intense circumstances, be conducted without showing emotions, I say show emotions, but yelling is a no-no. You don't yell at the dog. You don't yell at the neighbor. You don't yell at your kids. And you never yell at your wife. The only time you would yell at your wife or your children is if they're running in between two cars and they're running out in the middle of the street. You saying, you know, don't do that. Well, you're naturally not going to have to practice self-control. But it is self-control because you want to yell to get their attention. But to sit down with your wife and say, we got to have this talk about something, and to start to yell at your wife when you're sitting across a table, no. It's really, really bad. And then the last thing I don't like, he says, forgiveness has never made any sense to me. How can it be rational to acknowledge that someone has done something wrong to you, but then you take a position that it's okay? You're not saying it's okay. You're saying, honey, you made a mistake. You did me wrong. It hurts. But I love you. I'm going to overlook it because you promised you're going to try to never do that again. I just didn't say it was okay. So his definition of forgiveness is nothing like mine. It just isn't the same. And I'm upstairs in a 2-story condo, and his wife is downstairs in the kitchen, and they start yelling back and forth at each other. Well, they don't hear what each one's saying, so the yelling gets louder. Well, as the yelling gets louder, I say, your temper starts to get raised. What'd you say? What? I say this. When you're married, walk downstairs and look at her and ask her. Say, what is it, honey? And then go over it. Yelling to me is a big no-no. And I know a lot of families like to scream and yell, but I say screaming and yelling lowers interest level. And anything that lowers a woman's interest level, I'm against. You know, when a general is giving the orders, he doesn't yell. He almost whispers, but he knows that his commands are going to be carried out. He doesn't need to yell. He knows it's not necessary. Then we get into the 10 things you got to talk about. So you say, okay, honey, we're going to get married, but before I get you the ring, let's sit down. I want to go over these things. I want to talk about kids, our careers. We got to talk about money and financial styles. We got to talk about each one's family. We got to decide where we're going to live. We're going to decide who's going to do what in the house. We're going to decide what we're going to do for vacations. And we're also going to talk about religion. Do we raise the kids as Jewish kids? Or are they going to be Methodists or Baptists or Muslims? And we have to sit down and go over these things. And what I like about this list, it's really, really good. And he gives you a lot of various questions. Because what will happen is you're really going to get to know this woman after you go through this list. Because if she answers all these questions and you give her your opinion, you're going to find out what she's made of. You're going to actually see if this woman's really, really sweet. You're going to finally realize how many warts she has, if any at all. And you're also going to see her communication style, because in the future, when things go wrong, you got to be able to sit down peaceably and lovingly and say, honey, we got a little situation here, but let's be calm and we're going to work this out, and you go ahead and you work it out. Because the sad part is, people that get married have to live together. And when you live together, everybody has different styles. This guy, he can't hang up a jacket if his life depended on it. This woman couldn't put the cap on the Colgate toothpaste if her life depended on it. This guy, he couldn't wash a dish if his life depended on it. This woman, I tell you, all she wants to do is freeze me out with the air conditioner, and I like the house when it's warm. And at night, she snores, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But since you're going to get married, and that's what this show's about, because you want to be with somebody the rest of your life, you're going to have to learn to overcome these things. But a great start, I think, is this book, because when you go over this list, by the time you guys get talking, maybe you're not going to want to buy her a ring after all. Because, and he says in here, which is great, he says, one sentence in here, he says, when you get married, it's like going into a business. And when in my book it says, would you go into business with this woman? We say the same thing, the same word. Because once you say I do, you and Uncle Sam and her, and let's take kids, for instance, on here, Jeff. She wants to have 6 kids, and you want to have none. And
that's a bit of a deal breaker.
That's a deal breaker. Yeah, I want the kids to be raised Catholic. She wants the kids to be raised in a Lutheran church. It's a deal breaker. And I've seen this with Persians and Indians and Filipinos. I've seen a lot of different cultures. You marry out of my culture, and you're out of the family. And I've seen guys and gals who would not marry the guy or gal because their parents are going to write them off. So and that gets back to there's a chapter here, Conversation 5, which is family. And again, other than those couple little things about political correctness and forgiveness and yelling, but the reason I'm able to do this is because I have the system. And when you guys happen to pick up a book, when you're down at Barnes & Noble on relationships or how to make your wife happy or how to get along with your wife or any of that, you're going to be able to read that book, and with the background of Mastery 1, 2, and 3, you are going to be able to take the good stuff from the bad stuff.
I took this clip from the Dating Women radio show. If you want more free audio, check out our podcast. Get that and other free stuff, including a free 7-day dating course. Freeze the screen or hit the description for all your freebies. And of course, we have a discount on Doc's life-changing book at doclove.com/video deal. And if you aren't sure about buying it, just go to that URL and check out all the You Changed My Life letters there.